Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have the final of the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series to take a look at. It's very sad to say that, and it has been a long road to get here, but we have officially exhausted every single wave of Ceratopsian figures, and in fact we have reviewed every one here on the channel except the glow-in-the-dark orangish version of the Zuniceratops. We have reviewed the green glow-in-the-dark one, just not the orange, but the final figure that we have here is the Torosaurus, and this is obviously a very large figure. Being a Torosaurus, you would expect it to be a large figure, and the only figure in the entire line that can equal up to the adult Triceratops in size. As far as what we can see here, we have a really nice shot of the figure here through the window area of the packaging, as well as a beautiful image here as far as some artwork of the Torosaurus and the Beasts of the Mesozoic logo right there. And then if we turn it around and we take a look at the back, we have our checklist for Wave 3, as well as a sneak peek of the art card, the Torosaurus name, some information on the Torosaurus, as well as down here it does state that this is art by Raul Ramos. So Raul Ramos strikes again as far as his incredible paleo art and the Beasts of the Mesozoic line. So let's go ahead, pop this final Ceratopsian out of its box, and take a look at it. So straight out of the packaging, we have our tail assembly instructions, and just like I've stated numerous times, you really want to pay attention to this. Definitely very important, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to get the tail on if you don't do this. Trust me, especially this one, just like with the Alberta Ceratops, I had quite a hard time getting the tail on here of our Torosaurus. But then we also have the art card with some fantastic imagery here by Raul Ramos, who is one of the best paleo artists I think out there, and that is some fantastic artwork there of two Torosaurus. They appear to be dueling. And then here on the back we have some dinosaur toy photography of the Torosaurus figure, as well as the Beasts of the Mesozoic logo, the Torosaurus name, and then information on said species, as well as the CreativeBeast.com logo, and the art again is by Raul Ramos. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then we have the final beast of a Ceratopsian to bring in here, and that obviously is our Torosaurus, and look at how incredible that looks. Such a gigantic, absolutely massive, and incredibly striking figure, and this is a very interesting and very nice looking paint scheme with so many different tones of blue. It's so intriguing to see a Ceratopsian in a bluish color, but yet again, it does look natural. It does look like it could be the color of the dinosaur. And also looking at the art card there, you know, that collectible card really shows you as well that it could 100% be a naturalistic coloration for a Ceratopsian. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at this beast right now. So we definitely have a very large head sculpt on our Ceratopsian this time, so it's, you know, a little tricky to get it all into frame at once, but you can see that as far as the head sculpt of our Torosaurus goes, we have some beautiful scale detail here in like the palate leading down into the lower jaw. Really, really nice looking scale detail, and I love that it's been given a nice dark wash, as well as some nice dry brushing has been applied, but it really makes the scale detail in that area pop beautifully. We also have some dark washes applied up here into the frill, which I do quite like, but again, the dark wash applied in this area really makes that scale detail pop. And then there's some nice like light hints of like yellows and stuff in here as well, so we have some nice color variation. You can even see like some light hints of yellows up there. As you get up here, you can also see some light hints of green applied, which is a very interesting choice of color. The nostrils are sculpted. They're also nicely highlighted with a darker tone of color in there, painted with a black, I believe. And then we've got the beak painted with a yellow, given some nice dry brushing with a brown over the tips, which helps to really show off that beak and make it jump out at you, and just again give it some nice color variation. We do have an articulated jaw, which might be the smoothest articulated jaw on any of the Ceratopsians that I've had. You can see that inside the mouth, this time we actually get a pretty wide view of the inside of the mouth. We've got the tongue way back there. You can also see the inside sports a really nice pinkish tone of color with a gorgeous gloss coat, so it shines very realistically and quite lifelike. You can actually see the inside of the mouth on the Torosaurus, as again this mouth is open much wider I think than any of the other Ceratopsians. You can see the teeth back there, again like I had stated, the tongue, and you can also see what the detailing looks like there on the inside of the mouth on the upper side, the teeth back there. And amazingly, not only are the teeth sculpted nicely in there, but they're also painted nicely in there, so really showing off the high quality of this figure. As we lead up here toward the eye, you can see again we have a really nice yellow eye with a black pupil, some very nice, very fine scale detail there around the eye. You also can see that we have some white that kind of runs up into the horn of our Torosaurus, runs down here around the eye, kind of shoots toward the palate area and then up toward the frill as well. There's also a few red spots, so giving us some pretty fun color variation. You also might be able to take notice to the fact that we have a very different appearance for the texturing of the skin and everything up in the frill and up here on the face as well. You can see it's more of like a keratin type of a look as opposed to scaling. We can see some scales and stuff popping up here and there, but it's not nearly, the same style of texturing that you see elsewhere and on most of the ceratopsians actually. But you can see as well as we move up into the frill that the actual texturing is phenomenal, and they've also applied some really nice color variation, very subtle color variation up here. As you can see, like some light hints of greens and browns and stuff throughout the majority of the frill, kind of meshing with the bluish tones of color. There's also this really cool design up here on the frill as we have a nice red outline of an off-white and then a very dark blue, it looks like, that kind of has like almost a U type of a look here, kind of resembling a very strange eyeball almost, that we almost have like eyes up on the frill. But it looks really cool, gives a nice element of flashiness and also meshes well with the other colors that we have for the head of the Torosaurus. You can also see that we have some nice tones of like that yellowish coloration that border around the frill on top of the really nice bluish tones, and there's also some dark washes that have been applied to the top of the head, and also some nice coloration again right here with that variation of like a dark brown and also some greens, it looks like right there. If you come down into the neck region, you could see some really nice looking scale detail running along in the throat region of our Torosaurus, as well as a lot of really nice creasing right here, nice wrinkles and skin folds and stuff in the neck region. We transition from this blue to a black up here on the neck. You can also see that the back of the frill sports that same keratin type look until you lead down here into the lower part of the frill and you start to see some more scale detail picking back up. As you lead down into the neck, you see a transition from that blue to again the black that streaks down along the side of the dinosaur, as well as some more variation of blue that runs along and follows along the spinal column. But there's also kind of like a greenish dry brushing applied to that area as well. You can see some scoots running along the spinal column right here, as well as some nice blue spots as we have like a dark blue outlined by a lighter blue, and it's just kind of running along the spinal column there, sort of next to it, running along the back. And then we have some darker blue spots and stuff that just show up kind of randomly throughout the side of the dinosaur. Some more phenomenal scale detail is present throughout the course of the figure, and you also have a lot of osteoderms picking up here and there. As you'll lead back a little further into the dinosaur here, you can see a nice brownish wash has been applied in that vicinity. Again, some more really nice scale detail. And as you move down here into the side of the stomach, you can really see some nice girth, first of all, to the Torosaurus, so it's very healthy looking. But you can also see again that the black stops and we get down here into the bluish coloration, and there is some really nice transitioning between different blues. Like, they've really done a great job of adding in some very subtle and slight color difference so that it has a very nice realistic skin tone appearance. As you move down, you have some more nice skin wrinkles and stuff the further down into the body you get. And then once you reach the underside, you have some very fine scaling, very reptilian-like scaling, and a nice dry brushing of a yellow that runs over the course of the underside. You can see some nice wrinkling and stuff right here. As we lead into the leg, you can see the muscle definition is beautifully present here on that leg, as well as some nice kind of yellowish dry brushing, as well as some greenish dry brushing along the really nice scale detail running down the length of the arm. As you get down into the foot, you have a beautiful foot sculpt, really nicely sculpted out toes, beautifully sculpted nails. The nails are painted with kind of a yellow and then given a nice brown, sort of a dry brushing over top, adding some nice color variation, also adding a nice gloss coat to them so they shine like real nails would. You can really see how nice the toes are elaborated in this sculpt, something that's been present on every ceratopsian I think so far. I really love how beautiful the sculpting of the feet have been on these ceratopsians, and you can also see the scale detail looks phenomenal. You can kind of see like the green tones that run along with the toes as well, which looks pretty neat. As you move back here a little further into the back of our Torosaurus, you can see that we start to have some really dark blues kind of circling around some of the osteoderms that run along the side of the dinosaur. There's also a nice light dry brushing, highlights some of those very large, big and bulky scales that we have on our Torosaurus. Moving down into the side of the leg, you continue to see some variations of blues, some more of the dry brushing, as well as some more of those darker blues kind of highlighting the osteoderms, and there's also a few black splotches here. You can see some nice muscle definition there in the sculpt, some pretty nice looking skin wrinkles and skin stretching and stuff there, kind of showing some movement on our Torosaurus. The kneecap, or at least the appearance of the kneecap, is present. You can also see the calf muscle is big and bulging. Considering the size of this dinosaur, it's going to have some pretty massive calf muscles. And then moving down into the foot, again, the foot looks fantastic from a sculpting standpoint as well as a paintwork standpoint. We have again some more of those variations of greens and the very nicely sculpted out toes, and the nails are painted just like they were on the front foot. As you move back up into the tail, you can see again those wrinkles leading up into the tail. The tail is nice and short, but we have again some more absolutely gorgeous looking scale detail, some more black stripes, and then we transition here to the tip of the tail with a kind of a different look for the scale detail, as well as a nice dry brushing with a lighter tone of color to end the Ceratopsian off in a nice flashy way. And then the underside also has more of that nice reptilian scale detail, and then we have some more like variations of like greens and yellows on the underside, which looks really cool. Of course, the opposing side isn't really going to look too different from what we had just seen on the initial side, being an articulated figure like this. It's going to pretty much look the same on both sides, but you can see that the sculpt is phenomenal, the paintwork is phenomenal, really striking look for a Ceratopsian like this. And as you move back along the course of the dinosaur, you can see again that same style of sculpt and detail throughout. That very large stomach definitely looks to be potentially one of the most well-fed Ceratopsians in the entire line. But again, really gorgeous looking paintwork. And this one is a little different than a lot of the other ones because it's not quite as colorful. Like, it's a really flashy color of blue, but the others have had so many varying colors included, whereas this one has most of the same style of colors, which I do actually quite like, because although we've had so many really flashy colors included in the Ceratopsian series as far as different variations of colors on our Ceratopsians, it's nice to have one that's not quite so colorful, but still manages to maintain really flashy looking due to the primary tones of color they've used. But really gorgeous looking Torosaurus, definitely one of the highlights of the series. And then as far as articulation goes, it's kind of your standard as far as what you usually get with the Ceratopsians. So you have a very nicely articulated jaw. Again, probably the smoothest articulated jaw straight out of the box that I've had with the entire line. We also have an articulated tongue, but it's really back there. I can't exactly get to it. There are two areas of articulation for the neck. So we've got one right here at the base of the head, and then right here at the neck leading into the body, which can allow you to, position and turn your Ceratopsian however you would like. Really create some nice posability with the head and neck region. Some are a little more flexible, I think, and a little bit more articulated than others, but it still works really quite nicely on this Torosaurus. And then you also have the articulation down here in the shoulder area, as well as the elbow, but that is super stiff. The elbow is just not moving right now. There's just no moving that one. It's got to get warmed up before that's going to move. And then you have articulation in the wrist, which can usually swivel, but is also really quite stiff. We can see we can move it a little bit, but it's not actually swiveling, so I don't know if this one can't swivel. I know the joint here in the elbow definitely can, but the wrist may not swivel. I'm not too sure. And then we have articulation in the midsection, which you can see we can turn it and create some nice posability here for the side of the dinosaur. We also have an articulated hip, which is also a little bit stiff. There we go. We're working it in there. The knee actually isn't. The knee is just moving everywhere. So you can see the knee is actually really smooth, which is not something I often find with these Ceratopsians. The knees are usually really stiff. And then we have articulation down here in the ankle, two different spots. You can see we can move it forward and back, and then all over the place. You can also swivel. So lots of articulation there. And then we have the tail, which can go forward and back, up, down, all over the place. It can usually swivel. Yes, absolutely can swivel as well. So lots and lots of articulation, as you always find with your Ceratopsian. As far as a size goes, and yes, it's a huge one, for a length you were looking at about 17.5 inches, or around the 44.5 centimeter mark, closing in on 45 centimeters. And then for a height, you have it at about the 7 3/4 inches, or around 19.5 centimeters. Had to kind of lean away from the camera there to see that. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, and you can see that Mr. Papo Rex is destined for death if he tries to do anything with this Torosaurus, because the Torosaurus is just absolutely gigantic, and you can really see that in comparison to the Paparex, who is a pretty big figure, but he is no match whatsoever for this gigantic Torosaurus. And then, like I've done a few times recently, here is the Zuniceratops in comparison to the Torosaurus. So we have the smallest ceratopsian in the line here next to our Torosaurus, and you can really see there is a massive size difference between these two figures right here, showing off just how ridiculously large the Torosaurus is. And then we have the colossals, as we have the Torosaurus and the Triceratops here in comparison to each other, and you can see that the Torosaurus is absolutely huge, but so is the Triceratops, and I'm not sure if they're the same size or just very similarly sized. So actually, let's go ahead and get them next to each other. So from up above, I think it's safe to say that they're definitely I'd say about the same size, or very, very similar for sure, but there's not any type of a drastic size difference by any means between the two. And you can see that here, I think, even from the side view, they're definitely very, very similar. So I don't know which one I would choose as the larger of the two, but both are absolutely gigantic and two of the most impressive dinosaur figures I have ever seen. So this brand new and final Wave 3 Ceratopsian for the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series, the Torosaurus, is a fantastic way to end the series and end my reviews on the series, because it is another of the incredibly long line of fantastic ceratopsians in this line. And not only that, but you can see that this is just in general a beautiful version of a Torosaurus, and we really don't have many Torosaurus figures out there, so it is absolutely incredible to have one from the Beasts of the Mesozoic, and especially one so beautiful and so striking, with a very unique and original paint scheme for this one, sporting many different tones of blue, which is something that I feel like has really drawn a lot of people into this figure, is the unique appearance to its paint scheme. But again, just like they've done pretty much through the course of the entire line, they've proven to me that blues can even look natural on a ceratopsian, and I think although it's a very flashy and kind of an out there type of a coloration for a ceratopsian, especially a Torosaurus, it 100% looks like it could be the coloration. Now looking at it here on the figure and in the art card that was created by Raul Ramos, it definitely looks like it could be the color of this species, and they've done a fantastic job of applying the paintwork with many different varying tones of color, really nice, very subtle additions as far as some slight changes in coloration and beautiful dry brushing throughout, as always, really creating a very lifelike appearance to the paint scheme. And they've, as per usual, also utilized dry brushing and washes in a brilliant fashion throughout the course of the figure to really highlight every ounce of detail on our ceratopsian. I love the fact that they have kind of like some orangish tips to the horns as well. Such a really cool flashy way to highlight the horns. The coloration on the face almost kind of reminds me of like war paint, like battle paint, so that shows you that this Torosaurus is 100% ready to do battle against any challenger that comes near it. But of course, the sculpt is fantastic. I love the keratin type look to the face. I love the scale detail, and the nice dark washes they've used to highlight the scale detail really shows off how gorgeous of a sculpt this ceratopsian is. Of course, the size is easily one of the most impressive aspects of this figure because it is huge, absolutely massive, and really a centerpiece style collectible for any collection. It really is that figure that's definitely going to stand out in your collection, really draw people in because of just how unique and beautiful it is overall. On top of that, you as always have some fantastic articulation, so without question one of the best figures I would say in my collection would be this Torosaurus, and definitely one of the best in the entire Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series. So a great way to end the Ceratopsian reviews. I am very sad to know that the Ceratopsian series is pretty much over. We will be getting some smaller versions of some Ceratopsians at some point. There's also kind of like this exclusive green version of the Triceratops that will be coming out at some point. I don't know for sure if I'll be picking that one up or not yet, but we'll just have to wait and see. I probably will because that's how I am. Hopefully we'll have some more surprises as far as maybe like baby Ceratopsians and stuff at some point. I have heard that David Silva was considering that, so we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed, and maybe we'll get some more in the Ceratopsian series eventually. But regardless, if you are interested in picking this up, and I highly recommend if you are interested that you do just that, I will include a link in the description to where you can head on over to the Creative Beast Studio website right now, place an order for this gorgeous Torosaurus, and make it the centerpiece of your collection. So make sure you check that link in the description, go head on over there, purchase this beautiful model, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.